Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. We're here. It's a match time. Match time soon. Lineups out in 30 or so minutes. This is a big one, honestly. I know we've said this a lot, and I feel like a broken record repeating myself on it, but I do think we learn a lot. I do think we learn a lot about today. You know, when you look at United as a whole, progress is, what are we looking for this season? We're looking for progress. How are we measuring progress? How are we seeing whether United are on the right track or not? And that is an upward trend. Now, a trend is the important word there because it doesn't mean every single game better, 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 better. We're looking for a trend in the right direction. And it's not always a smooth ride, but it should be in the right way. I think since Sunderland, it's been an upward trend. And then we get a little flat, and then we have this dump from Everton. And then we get the Palace win. And as long as now the next few games keep going in the right direction, we're seeing progress. We're not far enough into this progress to be confident in said progress as of yet, I think, all of us. To be sure of it. But a win today, I think, tells us a good performance, a win, getting back on track with a couple wins in a row, I think does tell us, hey, we've turned a corner here a little bit. And yeah, we're getting better. We're getting better. There's going to be those dips. There's going to be some crazy losses. There's going to be things that shouldn't happen. But we're winning more games. So that's how I feel about this right now, is that it is another one of those games that's like, we're going to learn. You know, a loss today and you start to go, well, what the hell, man? You know, the contextualization of the last 4 or 5 weeks looks really bad with a loss. With a win, it looks fine. It's acceptable, you know. No, but anyway, that's how I see it. That's how I see it. That progress. When we lost Everton, I said, look, this is a bad one. But what matters a lot more is how the next 5 go. You know, what matters a lot more is how the next 5 go. Is it up? Is it back to winning ways? You know, I said we needed to get 2 points per game over this 10-game stretch. We have 3 from 2. A win puts us at 6 from 3. That's exactly where we need to be. So it makes these kinds of things acceptable to me. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I've got high hopes. I've got high hopes for this game as well. I think that Cunha coming back will be a huge impact on the team. I think he's going to make a big difference, and I strongly believe he's gonna play today. No. Don't get me wrong. A loss doesn't mean it's bad and the whole season's screwed or something, but it does mean, like, contextually, it's hard to settle in and see progress. This is sort of the point where we should see, in my opinion, in terms of where we're at, we should start. The level has to be raised. Our baseline has to be raised for progress. Okay, if you compare it, like, West Ham are genuinely bad. Like, let's not talk about it like Everton was a bad game, but Everton are a good team. West Ham are a bad team. They're probably going to get relegated. I would suspect West Ham, Burnley, and Wolves are the 3 worst teams in the league by far. These are games where I don't think you can excuse a fall off. You look at them and you go, and whatever you want to take from that statement is fine. But what I'm saying is that to feel as if we're progressing, at some point, there has to be a bottom. The bottom has to be a little bit higher. You know what I mean? The bottom has to be higher to see progress. That's how progress works, right? There's going to be downs, but the downs can't be so down. There's going to be ups. The ups need to be a little bit higher. If we lose games to teams like West Ham and Wolves, then where's the floor? There is no floor, especially at home. Then there is no floor. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's where our progress is. Over the last few years, there has been no floor for United. The floor is genuinely, we hadn't found it. Rock bottom. I think a loss to Grimsby was a bit of that rock bottom. We need to prove that the floor is higher. We're 14. This is a 14th game of the season. By now, we should be at least consistently winning these games to be seeing progress in the right direction. And you're not going to win every game, and you're always going to have little dips and things like that. But we had our dip against Everton. We can't have a dip 2 games later after Palace was pretty unconvincing too. We need to show up, and we should. We should. We should win, and these are the games that we really should win. I want Cunha to start, but it's harsh on Mount, who wanted to pick up form. Hopefully Bruno's fit to start. Well, I think that the thing with Cunha is that, again, when you look at like Mount, Xerxes, these players, we can say that, yeah, they got a goal. But do they deserve to play yet? Have they solved the problems that we have in the team? Because let's not paint the past when we're talking about this, rebuilding, having good performances, good games, all of that. Let's not repaint what happened at Palace and Everton. This is why I say I don't overlook everything just because we win, and I don't doom just because we lose. I want to look at why and what happened. We were still bad against Palace for a lot of that game, right? We were still quite poor. We still struggled to build up play even without the press. We still struggled to get the ball up the pitch even without the press. We still struggled to sustain possession in good areas that we wanted to. We still struggled to get and create chances from open play. And it was even worse in that front against Everton. Cunha is a solution finder where I say you look at the problems we had in the last 2 games, regardless of whether Mount or Xerxes scored, Cunha would still bring, I think, more to the table in solving the performance-related problems that we had in the last couple of games, regardless of the outcome. You know what I mean? It's hard to look at it in football because of the fluid nature of the game. But if you were like a basketball team and it was a basketball game where, your opposition was hitting threes with ease every single night against you, just tons of threes, your wing defending was lacking, but you were on a hot streak and you were scoring some, you would still need to focus on fixing that wing defending. Otherwise, you're over-reliant on a moment to save you, on things like that to happen. You still need to fix those fundamental issues. And if you got a guy on the bench that's like, oh, he was injured, he's a good 3-and-D guy, put him in the team. Just put him in the team. It doesn't matter if you have to drop somebody who's a little maybe of a hotter shooter, but they lack a lot in the rest of it. Just put him in the team, or the guy who made the big bucket at the end of the game to win or hit the buzzer beater, fine. But you still need to play the guy who's going to give you the more consistency through the game. And I think that's what Cunha is. I think that's what he brings to the table. I think that he and Ahmad and Mbeumo are so fundamental to getting the ball up the pitch without it having to constantly be first-time spammed passes and things like that. Shaw, to be fair, is one of those when he's very aggressive. He was doing a good job of that too. Is that Baleba report credible? That's an interesting one because here's my thoughts on that. If it's true that Bayern are looking at Baleba and he's available for 70 million pounds, well, then he's a United player because then we don't really have to think about it. You know what I mean? So it's sort of, I don't know, man. Like if there's any truth to it, it would explain why he would still potentially be very high on United's list. Because if you can get Baleba for 60, 70 million or a total package of 70, I think United would still do it. Because quality-wise, profile-wise, obviously we still know what he brings to the table. The problem has always been that Caicedo money. Now, do I believe it? Not necessarily. The reports in England seem to be still indicating, a much higher expense. But at the same time, an interesting thing came out today from Mike McGrath over there at the Telegraph. Mike McGrath at the Telegraph, who is an excellently well-sourced journalist, who's talking about that Brighton signing someone for their succession planning for Baleba. Thing is, if they're not going to pay, if they're asking for 110 million, then no one's buying Baleba. So maybe they are expecting to lower that price in this case, and that's why they're looking at it. So it's interesting. It is interesting because the question with Baleba here, when we look at it, is not, again, that we should overreact to a few games in terms of United's form, but the question about his form has come down to the price point. That's always been the issue, is that his form has not like indicated a price point that matches what they were asking for. You know what I'm saying? That's the issue. His form has not raised his price. If anything, it's lowered it or justified why it should be significantly lower. You know, but if the price is at a reasonable level, then that changes quite a lot there. Let me see if I can find this article. Says anything else interesting? It says they're still on the hunt for the long-term fix. Okay, so here's the issue. The article from the Telegraph says, where's my, no, you son of a bitch. The article from the Telegraph says Baleba could cost more than 100 million. So that's not great. You know, that doesn't really tell us that he's going to be available for cheaper. So that kind of conflicts with that report earlier from German sources. So we still have to remain wary, I suppose, at this point in time as to the idea of Baleba being some like affordable midfielder or that price coming down. It sounds like he's still going to cost a bomb, unfortunately. And I would rule that out. We're not going to pay 100-something million. If that remains the price, then it explains we'll be more willing to purchase one of these other guys. En route to Old Trafford. Come on, lads. Very nice. I hope you enjoy the game. I hope it's good for you. But yeah. Yeah. So yeah. That's the question there. But guess we'll see. But yeah, I really do think that Cunha is a difference maker for us. I really think he's a difference maker for us, you know, and will help with a lot of the problems that we've had. There you go, Matthew. Enjoy. But yeah, I want to see a strong, solid, direct performance from so many people today, and that we put something really, really good together. And I want to, you know, what we don't know yet is obviously with the Bruno injury risk, it sounds like he's probably in the squad. Is he just going to start again? Are we making no changes to the team, you know, beyond perhaps Cunha? I think changes are needed. I would expect Mazraoui starts. I expect Cunha to start. And I also just wonder, like, I don't know, man. I really think we need a change. And I want to debate this Bruno thing and give a little bit of like an analogy here. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's my analogy to the Bruno thing, right? Because you get a lot of like, oh, well, you know, we can't win without Bruno. And Bruno's involved in everything whenever we win, which also means, by the way, he's involved in everything when we lose, which has been a lot recently, but neither here nor there. But it's also like every time he doesn't play, we kind of look lost. And that's totally true. It's totally true. It is. But it sort of doesn't matter. You know, I don't know how you guys do it, but let's say like you're teaching someone to drive a car and you've got like those brakes and pedals on the instructor side and the steering wheel. And you've always got the instructor there. And every time you hit a difficult situation, the instructor hits the gas, hits the brake, turns the wheel, is running the show. That guy is never going to learn to drive. And the minute that instructor steps away, yeah, he's going to feel inexperienced. He's going to struggle a little bit. The instructor is going to drive better than him. He's going to. But so what? You have to get through that and get through that experience and learn what to do when things get difficult without the instructor doing it all for you, or it's never going to happen and we're never going to do anything. And that's such a dangerous place to be in. You know, that's such a dangerous place to be in that situation where you can't survive without the instructor. As a team, that's not how football is. Bruno said it himself recently about how football's changing. There's less of players like him and you need it. And if you look at how football plays, most teams don't have a conductor that has to be there for the rest of the team to run the show. Look at what happens with the back line, right? Look at Palace, for example. I think it's a really good example of this, but the solution can be wrong. The first half, the center backs were being scared, nervous, whatever, to play with the ball, to dictate play the way that they should. Second half, Bruno drops in and starts dictating play a bit more. That's not actually the solution. That's not actually the solution. You know, it's a Band-Aid fix to the problem, which is that, you know, we need Bruno and of course, what does that Band-Aid open up? That's why Bruno has to play deep. That's why our midfield gets more opened up. That's why we don't have as much frontline occupation and things like that, is because we have to constantly do this Band-Aid, but we need to fight through it. We have to fight through it. I don't see any other, you know, I don't see any other route to solving this in the long term except fighting through it. And we have to do it anyway. And it's not a commentary on Bruno Fernandes and his quality. It's about the team. The team has never, ever walked without Bruno for years. It's core. It's core, you know? It's core to the whole thing. And if it could happen with Bruno there, we'd probably be a better team, but it seems like it can't, you know? Again, I'll reference the most boring game that I had that I thought was really good was Sunderland, and Bruno was on the pitch for that game. And I liked that performance better, you know, because it was a composed, controlled, team-wide performance that wasn't ultra-reliant on Bruno, and it was our most calm, consistent, confident, composed, and regular game of football this season. You know what I mean? It's just how it is. The way you talk about Bruno is like he's the root of all Man United's problems. It's not like that. We're talking about almost like two different things. It's philosophically. Let me say something on this point. The way that United have built their squad and built their team and have been managed since Bruno has arrived to where it's like Bruno to bail us out. Yes, that is the root of all of our problems in terms of the way we play on the pitch. You have to understand what we mean by that. What is meant by that, though, is that's not an insult to Bruno as to the quality of him as a player. That's not what that is. It's we've never built a team. We've always built this crutch into it. Every manager built this crutch into it of, you know, Bruno heroics. But no, there's nobody in football, in my opinion, in the modern day that needs to or should be that influential in a top team. Okay? If you go back and look at like the greatest teams, none of them actually you could tell me I'm wrong here if you want. I don't believe any of them were so over-reliant on an individual. I don't believe that any of United's great teams were so reliant on an individual. I don't believe that the Madrid teams that won all those Champions Leagues in a row with Ronaldo there were reliant on an individual. You know what I'm saying? It's about the philosophy of how the team has been built, but every manager has gone back to forget build up as a team, forget creation as a team, forget all of this, put it in, you know, we got Bruno, we're just going to play through Bruno to solve this problem because we're under so much pressure to win that it's just Bruno. It's got a ceiling, and the ceiling isn't that high because it's not a team-wide effort. But it's also, you know, Liverpool reliant on Salah, sure, but he is a forward. He wasn't the one dictating play. Messi's probably the closest. Messi's probably the closest to that. But look at the quality around him. But yeah, Messi's probably the closest. But you're talking about probably the GOAT of his archetype in all of football is Messi. You know what I mean? You're talking about that, you know? So it's like, right, Irish, correct. They're guys where City are not relying on Haaland. Haaland, like they do to win, but you're talking about two different discussions here. Haaland could have 5 touches and score 2 goals. He doesn't run the game. He doesn't run the game for City. This is where philosophically people aren't getting the point about this. You can have an amazing striker or an amazing forward like Salah who can score goals and things like that. That can happen. That's what you want. You can have an Mbappe who's got like 52 goals for Madrid this year, but there's a difference in what we're talking about here. You know, you're not saying like, you know, Haaland is he's the end point of everything else. And yeah, having an incredible player in that position where sometimes you can just throw the ball into the box and Haaland will score is great. I'm talking about your build, like look at how we've played. Our build up, our direction, our getting forward is all has to be funneled through one player. You will never see that at a great team, that it has to be funneled through a single player. That it has to be funneled through a single player to progress the ball, to move it up the pitch, and to create chances. Nobody does that in football. No good team. It's a type of thing that bad teams do to look better. It's the same thing. It's like, you know, I use basketball as an example for this, where you get a lot of mediocre teams that had a Carmelo Anthony or a Westbrook or a Harden, and they would have to run everything through that single individual player, but they never built a team around them. And those players didn't win anything like that. It's the teams that spread everything out and add talent everywhere that won a lot. And again, it's not even a commentary on the individual themselves, but there is no team that runs that way. Look at Arsenal, and you can never sit there and say, oh, it all runs through this exact player. It is very much a team-wide effort, and City has been the same. As much as people would try to say it isn't, you know, yeah, it has been very much. So we just need more We do, but we also need to be able to, like, be disciplined as a team to not do that. Like, when I look at the Palace game, I'm not blaming Bruno in the second half for quarterbacking the team because nobody else stepped up in that game. Nobody else was stepping up at that point in time. That's why I would give him credit. You know what I mean? Nobody else. Stepped up there. De Ligt wasn't being brave with the ball. Once the other guys stepped up, it was all better. Shaw started being more aggressive. Mazraoui started driving the ball up the pitch, things like that. And we got better as a whole when that happened. So we need a lot of players to take responsibility. You know what I'm saying? I don't want players to constantly go, oh, well, I'll just let Bruno handle it. That's a shit way to build a team. But we've done that for so many years that is the nature of United. So it's hard to have this discussion with people getting it. But like, there's a point where we're never gonna progress until we stop relying on Bruno. It's just a fact. There is a limitation to how far you go as long as that's there. And we've already hit that limitation. We hit that limitation years ago, and we bounced to that limitation and we drop off again. And we've seen what it looks like and where it can go. We need the team as a whole to perform. So it's like, I get it. If Bruno is out, I don't know if he is or know that if he isn't, you know what I mean? I don't know if he is or if he isn't, but if he's out, we might look worse, but that's the type of thing we have to fight through. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of thing we have to continue working through, whether he's there or not. We've got to continue working through that. No matter what. We have to continue working through that. It doesn't matter. And in the long run, that's what we'll do. Seems like players are desperate for a captain that delegates and encourages instead of trying to do it out. Right. Yeah. There's a difference. Limitation won't be there when the other players step up regardless of Bruno. Yeah, but I think you're missing the point. Life takes the path of least resistance. Let's put it this way, okay? Like, you can't, like, if you walk with crutches, you can't have the crutch and walk normally. Doesn't happen. Because there will always be, you will always adjust to that, to having that. It's just natural. That's just natural. That's part of the thing that I think is not being necessarily understood. It's just natural. People will always end up falling back onto something that's there if it's there. Always. No matter what. Right? It's just how it is. It's just human nature. If you have something as a fallback, you will always fall back to it. You will. When it gets hard, if you've got something to fall back on, you're always going to fall back on it instead of pushing through the thing that is really hard. Right? Because you have that fallback. You do. It's just normal. Like, it's too hard. All right, well, I could just use that instead. You will. I'll figure an analogy out here shortly, but it's like, I always talk about, I always reference a movie, which is Gattaca. Does anybody remember Gattaca? Does anybody remember Gattaca? The movie Gattaca. If you're old like me, you'll know the movie Gattaca. And there's the line in it when they're doing this swimming thing. And you have to understand the context of the movie, but he essentially says, he has this line where he says, I never saved anything for the swim back. And the concept of it is that he was able to do the impossible beyond his limitations because he didn't have a fallback. He didn't have a safety net underneath him. Whereas the other guy, in this case is like this genetically engineered perfect guy, who's his brother essentially, he beats him in this thing because the other guy, with all his intelligence and everything, can't comprehend this point of not having a backup plan. And so he's always saving his energy for that, thinking it through because he's got a backup. He's got the other part there, the fallback, the safety net to think about. It's too logical. And he's just like determined. Win or die. And that's the only way you break through those hard things. And I don't think United will take that next leap until the players act that way. I don't think that the players act that way. You know what I mean? Until they act that way. But I think that I worry. I don't know that will happen until it has to happen, because you have to force that situation to occur. It's easy to tell people. You know what I mean? It's easy to tell people that, forget the safety net. Forget Bruno's on the pitch. Just do your job. Forget that Bruno you could just delegate it all back to Bruno. It's hard to tell people that and then follow it under moments of pressure. They're not going to get it that way. The only way they will push through that barrier mentally is if it is not an option. If there is no other choice, and they might struggle with it, but that's why I like guys like Cunha, by the way. Guys like Cunha and Mbumo, you've seen it. They're newer in the team. They don't seem to be reliant on that because they haven't been here long. So they've never learned the culture of this, of how teams have often delegated to Bruno so much. that they will go and take it. But look at what the fan base does when that happens. That's my frustration. Look at how people talk about Cunha. Not everybody, because some people get it. Look at how people talk about Cunha. When he tries, and they say, oh, he's trying to do too much. Well, hold on a second, man. That's kind of the point. You know? I want him to be a guy taking responsibility for the game. That's why I want him to start, because he's one of those guys, attitude-wise, who will take responsibility for the game, for himself, for doing it, and not have to delegate to someone else. It doesn't always work out, but I want 11 guys like Cunha. There's nothing wrong with what Bruno's doing, but a lot of people who've been here for too long don't get it. You know, they won't push themselves because they have him. So that's why I'm saying this is a philosophical discussion. It's not an individual discussion. It's not about Bruno. It's a philosophical discussion about what's been wrong with this team. We've done it for too long, you know, and no team wins that way when you have 11 players and they won't push themselves. When you have 11 players and they won't push themselves. But yeah. Anyway. It is what it is. It looks like Shea Lacey's with the squad again as well. Bruno and Xerxes obviously arrived. Lineup will be out in a couple minutes. No, I think Bruno will be in the starting 11. That's the thing. I'm just saying that it's just a discussion point about people get very chaotic about this point on if Bruno doesn't start, we're screwed or this. It's not the point. And then it's hard to have that discussion. Realize one thing. We're building a team for the next 10 years. There's zero chance that's going to involve Bruno in the long run. At some point, people have to just stop and be like, hold on a second. Let me think beyond the next 90 minutes. Let me think about the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What are we trying to do? Philosophically, we have to build a team that is not predicated on individuals. Fergie's team changed everybody over time, and it still succeeded. So, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of
see how this team would perform without Bruno, hypothetically speaking.
It's exactly that. It's just that. I'm not saying it'd be better right off of the bat, but I do think it's the only way to push some of the players beyond what they are currently doing. You know what I'm saying? I think it's the only way to push them, because some of them won't do it. That's why I really, really don't want to criticize. You know, I love what Cunha is doing, and I'm a big, big fan, because he's one of the only guys out there who does that. And I would say Ahmad as well. He's one of the players where, he's one of the players like Ahmad as well. You can see it. He's one of the players that shoulders responsibility constantly himself, and that's why we missed him so much. So Bruno starts as expected. So Heaven is starting today. That's a surprise. Ooh. Okay, good. It's Ahmad out wide. God, that scared me for a second. Heaven at left. No. What? What am I looking at here? Delict on the bench. Dallo, Mazraoui, Heaven as a back three. Wait, I'm confused. Heaven, Shaw, Mazraoui back three. Ooh, interesting lineup. This is some unexpected changes here. That's an interesting one. That is really interesting. I would say that was a surprise. No, Shaw's starting. Shaw, Heaven. Here, sorry, let me pull it up. I was trying to figure out how to organize this. Look. It's Delict who's out. Delict is out. So I think it'll be Shaw at center back Mazraoui, right center back, Heaven left. Or it'll be Mazraoui in the middle. It's a more pacey back line, you got to say. That's quite a pacey back line. And you're getting Xerxes, Cunha, and Bumo, which is what I wanted. Let's see. So let's adjust. I'll show you what it looks like. That was a surprise with De Ligt, huh? So you're gonna get for him Heaven. I could see it being like this. Maybe like this. Like this, maybe? I don't think he'll put Heaven at center. Because that takes a more experienced role. I think it'll be like this. Because I think he'll want a more experienced player in the center to deal with the striker. But then again, it's the least progression. Maybe Shaw in the middle. It might be like this. This is the least number of changes to their natural position. I think it'll be Shaw, come to think of it. Normal position. It's just one change then. And it's your most experienced player with Shaw. So maybe this makes sense. Maybe this makes more sense. You get a bit more pace out wide. (4-4-2). I mean, it's going to be a 4-4-2 at times anyway, so it doesn't really matter. De Ligt and Mount were the two players Bruno was referring to yesterday. Interesting. So we got a bunch of wrong reports on that, huh? Hang on, I gotta tweet at Flex. Hold on one second. I just have to tweet Flex. This is interesting, though. This is an interesting lineup. Is Mount not in the squad? No, Mount's on the bench. Bench is Bayindir, Dorgu, Malacia, Martinez, Yoro, Mainu, Mount, Ugarte, Lacey. So we have, as attacking subs, we have Lacey and Mount. Maybe Mainu falls into that. Defensive subs, we've got Ugarte, Yoro, Licha, Dorgu, Malacia. Yeah. So it's just De Ligt who's out. Just De Ligt. All right. Sick. Interesting. It's an interesting team. We'll see how it lines up. I'll tell you what I like. This might be the best ball-playing back line we have right here. There's a lot of ball players out the back right now, which is what Emram wants, to be fair. Let's see if that makes a difference. I'm still disappointed about the midfield. I think they've been shocking the last couple of weeks, and I think it's lame that there's no rotation in that respect, but whatever. Especially after a short turnaround. But hey, it is what it is. Yeah, there's a lot of ball playing here. Aggressive ball playing, aggressive. Yeah, Lissandro, I get that, but he needs to be healthy and like have played more than 15 minutes to consider him to be in our best side at the moment. It is interesting. This is an interesting lineup. I think let's put it this way. Regardless of best or things like that and splitting hairs, there's a lot of ball playing in this team. A lot more than we had probably with De Ligt and Yoro, just based on present form. This is a heavy ball playing side right here. And there's a lot of pace. There's a lot of pace in this as well. That's the part that I really like. There's a lot of pace in this team. Very, very pacey. It's pacey and good with the ball at the back. I like it. I think it could, in essence, look a lot more like his preferred setup. You know what I'm saying? In that, pace and ball playing ability is what he wants out of his back line. By the way, you know what's really funny? We only have one center back in the side, and he's also been a midfielder and a left back in his career. We have 0 pure center backs on the pitch for all the complaints about how defensive Amorim is. We literally have 0 pure center backs out here right now. Just saying. 0. Defending the box could be one. What did he say? I guess this is only one change too, isn't it? This is only one positional change as well. Center back, and left center back. Yeah, that could work too. Yeah, that's fair. Who's their striker for West Ham right now? Do they have anybody good right now? If it's Heaven, who's he got to deal with? I would also suggest, sure, the lack of some of the box defending things, probably why Casemiro's still on the side. But yeah, I love this front three. This was almost my ideal front three coming into summer after we got Cunha and Mbeumo. We haven't seen this, have we? Xerxes, Cunha, and Mbeumo? Wilson. All right, I think Heaven could deal with him. I mean, he's a tricky player, but he'll have a lot of support. Have we seen Xerxes, Cunha, and Mbeumo yet? I don't think we have. As a front three. Where did we start the year with? We started with Mount. No, because Cunha kept playing number 9. Yeah, I think there was a sub period, but never as to start a game. I love the idea of this. I think this is a really, really good front three. Yeah, hey, I'm intrigued. I'm very, very intrigued. No Somerville, no Paqueta. This lineup, let's go get some goals. I think this could suit everybody really well with Josh dropping, linking up play, and getting Mbeumo and Cunha beyond him. I like this. I think this is good. I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah, Xerxes was injured to start the year, and then Cunha was playing number 9 a lot early with Mount in the 10 before Šeško got going. So, cool. Well, nice. I'm kind of excited about this lineup now because we're seeing something a little bit new. It's not the midfield changes I would make, but to be fair to Ruben and to everybody on this, we've kind of talked about this. The midfield is also at the dereliction of the back line. The back line not being progressive, the back line not playing the way that we want it to play, puts more pressure on the midfield, changes the way we play in the middle. If the back line can be more progressive on the ball, can be quicker, can be faster, and if the front line can make the ball stick better, maybe we'll see a Sunderland-type performance where it's just routine from Bruno, Casemiro, and we don't need Bruno bailing us out. I would like to see that. When Bruno's on the pitch, I'd like to see more of that. You know? Win 10-0 and go 4th on goal difference. I like the way you're thinking, Richie. Just 10-0. Just a casual 10-0. All right, guys. I got to do some stuff before the actual game, so I'm going to end it here in a minute. But I honestly think that the fact is all we got to do is perform. All we got to do is show up for these types of games. Regardless of the lineup, regardless of everything else, regardless of anything, that team should beat West Ham handily. True or false? It should beat West Ham handily, with ease, without question, without debate. That team should be able to destroy West Ham. It's just the facts. They just should be. Regardless, forget the tactics. I'm serious. Forget the players. Forget whatever. Well, don't forget the players. The players are better than West Ham's by far. The attack is good. The ball-playing center backs are good. Everything is good. It's better than West Ham. They should win. If they show up at home, we'll win. If they don't, anything can happen. Anything could happen. But they got to show up. Last thing, make sure you come and join me at Big Up. The link is below. Again, few minutes left to get in your picks for the competition. This is the picks that I made. Again, you can do between 2 and 6 picks. The $2 I entered, I could win 40. yeah, come compete over there, and then watch the game and join the chat and have fun over there. I'll be live in just about an hour for the kickoff for the game. So come join me on Big Up. Play the game if you want. But otherwise, let's see it. I think we need this to be a cruising, solid, no nonsense type of game. And I'm quite intrigued by the lineup right now. So happy to see that. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I will see you on Big Up for the match. And then I will see you here afterwards for the post-match interviews and all of that. All right. See you later, everybody. Have a good one. Enjoy the game.